Let me bring in my group. I hope they didn't leave me. We've got Jim Rule, president and publisher of Acorn newspaper group. Jim, feel free to turn on your video and audio. Frank McCracken, president and publisher of the Chesterfield Observer. Frank, please join us and our host today, because we are sponsored by a company called Our Hometown Media. Matt Larson, you're a great friend of ENP. We appreciate all your support, and thank you for dressing up for us today. Matt, he said sarcastically. I'm kidding. And everybody can hear me. We're all set to get going. We're going to be discussing a very important topic today, which I did not believe is possible, which is, can we create digital paid subscribers with a free product? I mean, obviously, paid daily newspapers, at least your audience in the legacy phase, were used to paying for content, so it might have been easier. But now, in the digital sphere, can you get people to pay? And these two gentlemen are doing just that. So let's start with you, Jim, publisher of the Acorn newspapers. Can you tell us a little bit more first, before we get into the actual platform you're using and how you're getting paid subscribers, about your company, the size, the market, and all that and more, Jim?
Okay, yeah. Thank you for having me. We're based in Agoura Hills. We're on the Ventura County, LA County line here. We've got 5 different weekly newspapers that we pretty much run all independent of each other. There's some shared content, but primarily we try to target our different communities with the 5 papers, separate editors, separate editorial staff, all that kind of stuff.
Could I just ask circulation? I don't know if you...
Yeah. Between the 5, we're at about 138,000.
Okay.
So it's a pretty good sized print run.
All right. How about web traffic? Any idea of unique visitors, page views, that kind of stuff that you can share with us?
I probably should have pulled all that up. I don't know what
I was just about to say, I have a feeling that Mr. Matt Larson, who is your CMS provider, the guy.
Yeah, he's my guru on all of this stuff. I rely on him heavily.
Well, Matt, how's the market doing?
Real quick on that. I got some numbers. I got some graphs we can look at later, because traffic has remained stable. But the Thousand Oaks Acorn is the leader of the group, and they're running between 150 and almost 200,000.
Excellent. Jim, let's go to Frank now. Frank McCracken, your company is called the Chesterfield Observer. Chesterfield where, sir?
Chesterfield, Virginia, just outside of suburban of Richmond.
Okay, sir. A little bit more about the paper, how often you publish, how many copies, a little bit more about the size and scope of your operation.
Well, the paper's been around for 25 years. We're exclusively to the Chesterfield County here in the state of Virginia. With the pandemic, we had to tone it back a little bit, so we're just under 60,000 now, and we deliver most of those through a circulation company that works exclusively for.
Okay, great. Size of the staff, if I may ask?
We got 11 full-time and 2 part-time, and then we have another, 8 to 10 freelancers that help us out.
All right, great. Matt, anything on their website you want to share?
Yeah, definitely. Page views is average under 80,000, 40,000.
This is a good time to introduce Matt Larson. Matt, you are the CEO of Our Hometown Media. We appreciate, of course, your support of ENP. And I should mention, full disclosure, we're about to launch a new marketplace product that you'll be hosting for us to help the suppliers and the vendors and our partners get a little bit more traction from the ENP audience. But basically, your company provides newspapers of all shapes and sizes a content management system. Am I correct, sir?
That's right. Yeah, we work with all sizes exactly. A lot of our customers are mom and pops. They can't deal with managing updates on their system details, but also Jim and Frank use our full service. So we don't just host the site and handle all the stuff there, but we actually help them.
All right. And once again, I'm watching some chat starting to happen. Everybody's just going to the panelists. Just drop it down so we can all watch any and all messaging you have. Okay, so let's go back to Jim Rule if we can. Jim, what the heck were you drinking? I'm just kidding, sir. When you decided you were going to take your website and lock it down to a paid subscription community because you were a free paper, tell us your thinking on that, your thoughts, and when you made that decision.
Okay, well, we went online back in the early 2000s.
Okay.
And it always drove me nuts because I was a print guy. And it's like, man, now this friggin' internet, I got another great big giant expense And how do I monetize it, right? And, for years, we've just been paying the piper thinking it will come, build it and it will come, right? And, the revenue was a giant uphill battle. Finally, I said, you know what? Why are we giving this away online? I just don't get it. Now, I got so much kickback from my editorial staff because, freedom of the press, free press, all this. And I'm like, this is an extra expense for us, so we got to recoup our costs. So finally, after probably working on all my editorial staffs going, no, we're going to do it. It's just what we're going to do. And of course, they thought the sky was going to fall. I said, we'll go with a soft paywall. And, we might get some kickback, but let's see what happens. So we finally did it. I think on the first one, we figured when we first launched it, we figured we'd do something like 4 or 5 free stories before you hit the paywall. And we did get a lot of confusion. People thought we were going to go to a paid model with the print and all of that. And it was like, now we reassure our audience that now the print publication is still free. This is a value added, online only subscription. And you know what? You had to calm a few people down, but overall, they accepted it pretty well. Some people would even buy a subscription for the online just to support the free paper. That's how much they appreciate the paper. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, it was kind of heartwarming. It felt pretty good.
Matt, you were the provider when you put up that paywall for them, correct? That was your job.
Right. Yes. Right. We launched that back in fall of 2018.
With a metered model. Right. Let me ask you a question. It's now starting to make sense to me that if you explain that the website has more than the print product, the print product simply printing you the weekly news, but on the website you have archives, you have expanded content. Did you coach Jim to add a little bit more to the website? So make sure that there was a flipped version of the page. I mean, how did you make the website more fun so someone could say, wow, this is not print. It's not the same thing. It's an extension of the brand that's legacy.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just reminding people of the archives, 24-hour acts, pointing out these things that have been a feature is a big part of it. I'm just going to quickly share my subscribe page. Set it up really nice. Simple options, easy to understand, not too many to choose from. You don't want 20 different, the paradox of choice that comes into play there. And he's pointing out the benefits, 24-hour online act, automatically straightforward options, 12 months.
Where'd you come up with that pricing? Did you just kind of toss it against the wall, see what stuck? Or did you have some research from other markets? Why that pricing model? See, because you have a free paper, you have nowhere to start in your brain, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, correct. It was, we all kind of pricing back and forth. We wanted it to be affordable. And you're figuring, it's like, oh, come on, $36 a month
a year.
Or a year. I mean, that's, it just seemed cheap enough. We didn't want to go too cheap because it's like, we feel that our content is worth something, but I don't know. I'll be honest with you. It's just, we kind of drew a line in the sand figuring, what are people willing to pay? And that's what we did. And we figured we can always do coupons if our price was too high, and we'll see how that works out. So we just threw the dart. That's the number, and we stuck with it.
And that's the same number you've had ever since you put up the metered paywall, correct, Jim? You haven't changed the pricing. All right.
Yeah, one thing I want to add too, one thing, we want to make sure people knew is with the online access, you're getting it before you're getting the paper. So the real local news junkies are getting it the night before we hit the street. And that seemed pretty attractive as well.
Well, now you're getting ahead of you because that's the next thing I was going to ask.
Oh,
what is your, no, that's fine. I mean, I love when people anticipate me. It makes me feel, I'm kidding. And you, sir, over your left shoulder have a dog that hasn't moved once during this entire interview. I hope it's not ill or anything. I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
No, he's very well trained.
This is getting to be now. Okay, so what is your theory on publishing a weekly newspaper online. And the reason I bring it up, we had a wonderful gentleman a couple episodes ago who moved from New York City out to, Big Bend, Texas. And he runs a weekly newspaper and he puts his content up weekly. He said, my market expects it to be weekly. That's how we update our website. Are you the same way, or do you break news every day and just like kind of use the paper as the weekly place where it's all displayed?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. We put a lot of breaking news up on, different days of the week. Anything that's, really critical breaking news goes in front of the paywall for the community because we feel that's important. But a lot of stuff, if we feel it's softer, we'll put a shortened version up online earlier and, the full story will be in the paper and they'll have to wait for that. So, kind of teases and stuff as we go.
So we did have a question. I think you may have responded to it, Matt, online. I know you're chatting away, but someone wanted to know, did he have to pay extra for this, or was it an outsourced paywall? This was a service. I'm giving you a little kudos here because you're the paying customer for this. This was a service our hometown provides, as other, CMSs do as well. So you can throw the switch for any free site, right? And put up a paywall.
Absolutely. I'm sure most CMSs do this. WordPress is a plugin called MemberPro. If you're doing your own WordPress site, just can buy that plugin.
And you obviously then hook it up to Jim's either authorized .NET account or whatever, way he transfers cash. So now here comes the big question before we switch over to Frank. What happened when he went up? How many subscribers did he get? How much growth has he had? Right. I mean, is it a lot of money? I mean, Jim, are you ready to retire with all the cash that's flowing in from your subscription model? Or
well, I don't know if I'm ready to retire, but I think as most small publishers have figured out, the days of big revenue streams coming in are kind of done. So now we're looking for revenue creeks, and I consider this a good solid revenue creek.
All right, now Jim, I haven't gone on Wikipedia, but you just made a definition there. You just said that a creek is smaller than a stream, and I might take issue with that until I study the two different tributary. Never mind, Matt. What are the numbers as we go into? Okay, there you go. Look at it.
I have a fun little thing here. I thought we could make this interactive. Actual dollar figures here, but I do think it's interesting to look at this moment, a snapshot, what we're at today on just the Thousand Oaks Acorn. He's got almost 1,000 paid subscribers, and they are falling into one of these, the 12-month multi-site, in which case they bought a sub to another one of his sites, 6 month, 1 month. And then, so here's the pie chart. Okay. So in the chat, the highest selling and what is the lowest? And
that was going to be my question. Yeah. How is it breaking down? Because you have the colors, but we don't know which is which.
Right.
So where's that 84.5% falling? Is that a 1 monther? Is that a 12-monther? Because look, we're all doing the same thing right now. We're going, okay, how much money is he making? If the average is $4 a month, this guy's getting $4,000 a month. Hey, Jim, no offense, that's better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's better than a creek to me. If I had 4K coming in, I'd call that a real, maybe an estuary, if I may be so bold. All right. 6 months and 1 month, Wendy says highest is 6 month. John, thank you for also telling me to fix my collar earlier. That was a private message, but I appreciate it. Highest is 12 month multi, lowest is single copy. Nietzsche, I love your name. 1 month is the biggest. Anybody else want to guess before the drum roll, which I don't have ready? What was the single copy? All right, Matt, drum roll. Okay. What is it?
And just to be clear, that this is what we're talking about here is number of subscribers at each subscription level, not the revenue. So, they're paying the most for a 12-month subscription, but here it is. 12 months is by far the biggest representation of the members. Okay. So we have the most people of these 1,000 active paid subscribers annual. So I think that's really fascinating. I mean, that's obviously the most committed group to buy a year at once. So it's been really neat to see this shift over time. I think, M. Roberts got it. So 12 months right now, 3 months or almost 3 years, a couple months short of 3 years since launching. This is where it's settled. almost 85%. And then the smallest is actually 1 month. So that has kind of been surprising to me, but in a way it makes sense because after 3 years, if you're still month to month subscribing, that's not an economical way to buy anything because it's at a premium. It's the lowest commitment. So that the fraction of people that are 1 month has slimmed down. Right in the middle, we got single issue sales. And then in between that is the 12 month.
First of all, we got to give a prize to M. Roberts. It'll be the guitar hanging on the wall behind you. No, M. Roberts, if you want to text, you can privately text me or chat with me your address. I'll give you a full year subscription to our print product, editor and publisher, which I'm very proud of. That's pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
And I learned something today. By the way, Burl, a good friend of mine who was on one of these broadcasts earlier talking about cannabis in Lansing, Michigan, because he runs the Alternative Weekly there, is interested in the cost of your product. Let's not get into you like talking about your rates, but make sure you text Earl, give Earl a message on that. But this is really fast. And Matt, will people be able to get these slides? Because I think this is really cool stuff. I'd like to also share them.
We'll have a contact info at the end.
Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm learning here is you get what you ask for. I mean, that was the first box they checked, correct? To go back to Matt, was the next image the actual?
It actually is.
Yeah.
See, that's what I saw. I mean, the marketer in me said, if you'd gone lowest to highest, they might have said, okay, we love you, but I'll give him the 5 because that's what he's asking for. Maybe, do you think, Matt, that's the reason, or am I wrong? Does the first box usually become the highest option?
I really think that it's the economics of the way he set it up.
It's the economics.
If they did $5 a month for a year, that's $60. They might as well. It's 3 years in now. Maybe some people did that for the first year, but then they realized to 12 months, I'm going to subscribing for it. So once they're totally sold on it.
All right. People are asking, do you offer the flip book version of the paper behind the paywall? And the answer, Matt and Jim, is yes, right? You don't get the flip. And do you have every previous copy available as well?
That's all in the archives, and it's all, once you get a subscription, it's all access. It's very simple. We don't break it down and, you get access to this for this price. And over here, it's, you're buying in and you get.
Jim, I can tell, he said sarcastically, you're a huge operation, which means you employ 5 or 8 digital only editors at your place, right? What I'm saying is are you making any extra effort to throw more value in there sometimes? Do you sometimes throw in a video interview that maybe one of your reporters did, or some extra images that your shooters have shot? Is there anything that you're dumping in there to prove that digital subscription from a paid newspaper has more, or is it just a natural flow from your audience that this is happening? It's
primarily a natural flow. We do try to, like when we go on photo shoots at events, we try to put more of those photos back online. We'll plug it in the paper. See more photos, go online. Some of that's kind of the low hanging fruit that's easiest for us to do. So we'll go in that direction. Occasionally, a couple of our editors are pretty savvy with videos. So occasionally we do post videos up there. We could certainly do a lot more. And, it's something we're looking to do as we go into the quiet summer. Summers are kind of quiet for us. We'll powwow and see if we can up our game.
See, I'm not finding it difficult at EMP. Now, then again, I'm a monthly B2B publication to do these. I mean, this is obviously a paid sponsored webinar. Some of you who know our platform know that I host personally the vodcasts each and every week. I'm finding that by augmenting the print story with interviews behind it, I'm having some fun. We're getting a huge audience on those. I mean, so I'm just wondering, that's just a thought out there. See if you can, get people to, when your reporters are out there, you got a 5G, you got a phone, just stick it on a little stand and do the dialogue. That's just my 2 cents. And the more you throw in there, the more how should I say, amplification of the print product will come. Tom had a question. Curious to hear how many subscribers signed up within the first couple months of the paywall. Has that number to continue to grow, or is it leveled down? Matt, do you have any data on over time?
Yes, Ken slide that talked about this. And
Yeah, let's get into that. We're doing this thing now. I think Acorn first. Frank,
Right.
you're not off the hook. We're going to get to you in just a moment. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's a much younger paywall, so it's interesting to see where he's at today too. The first month, so Tom, this was an interesting model Jim came up with. 12 months ran during the first September 2018. This was like their intro, and that created 241 subscriptions. It's pretty much, I believe that's about 10% of the subscriptions that were ever created, 2.5. That was a huge.
How did you promote that? Did you have ads in the paper as well? I mean, was that something?
Yeah, we also had a front page story letting people know we were going to do this and, telling them how fabulous it would be.
Right.
Yeah, well, I get it. Go ahead.
Well, while we're at it here, I mean, I just want to emphasize these promotions because these are some just like really practical things that anyone can apply. Pretty straightforward stuff like holiday offer. Jim has this model of doing these sporadic promotions a year, and we're going to talk about Frank's model, just kind of like an ongoing introductory. Two slightly different approaches. I think both have benefit. The holiday offer was again for 12 months, and these promotions are only for the 12 months. And this ran at the end of December 2019, so over a year that the paywall had 30% discount if you buy in, and it was like a week at the end of the year that they offered. Another quick thing, just while we're on this, the welcome back promo, they did this cool thing that you can do where basically we can target just the people that used to say specifically, we'd love to have you back. So it's more personalized, and the discount was 2%, ran for 1 week in February. We did it through a newsletter that was a targeted offer. And again, it just went to expired members. So you don't have paying subscribers getting these coupons we want to avoid that. This is just a really quick way. And we were just talking before the call today that the fall, a lot of their coverage is on schools. So something in August, just the last thing, just in
That was
general.
my next question. How large is the email database?
Yeah, right. I know you're all about the email, Mike, and I love it. And so am I.
I'm very much about it.
I talk about it a lot with our customers. These are hot leads that sign up for a free newsletter. So back in the spring of 2020, pretty much, okay, so this was something that someone asked about earlier. They mentioned taking the paywall down during COVID. The Acorn did not take the paywall down. They turned it into a registration, which I thought was really smart and similar when he launched, because that just required, it's free access. He went from paid back to free during COVID, but required people to sign up with just create a free account. And that takes 2 seconds, but it allows us to gather their email. And we collected 4,700 emails in that process. And I was digging into the data at this time period. We were still selling annual subscriptions during this time period. So there was still an option to buy. And as Jim said earlier, that's a way for people to give back to the Acorn, in just kind of a unique way. And then 236 members purchased their first paid subscription after the free account. So it was because they had the
That's
free
great
account.
Conversion. That is amazing.
Right. That's the conversion. And then on top of that, we talked about all these coupons. 137 of those people used a coupon after they did the free account to get their first. So this
you collected 4,700 plus emails in a market that size. That's incredible. How much data do you ask when you're collecting an email address? What's your number now, Matt, of questions or fields?
It's really simple. Newsletter sign up. Well, we don't have the free account on here anymore, so I don't know exactly what it was, but I'm assuming it was no more than name. First name is good to get for a newsletter because then you can automatically insert that into the newsletter. If you're just sending out newsletters without a hello, Mike, then they're much more likely to go to spam. So you want to get first name, email, obviously, and that's really all that that may have been all that we asked.
Okay.
I don't.
Yeah, we kept it simple.
Yeah, keep it short, simple.
All right, let's, Jim, you're not out of this. I'm sure we're going to circle back to you in a moment. Let's get over to Frank. Frank, you've been so loquacious and talking so much through this. No, I'm kidding. Let's get into Frank's model. Frank, when did your paywall go up? When did you decide to do this?
We started a registration for people to sign up in September and then kicked up the metered paywall in October of last year.
All right, so during COVID, Okay, during COVID, you asked for registration to see the content for 1 month, and then you put up, was that a metered paywall or a hard, Matt?
We give them three stories a month.
Okay, right.
3 stories a month. Was that a good model in your opinion because I know a lot of newspaper, and if there was something to do with the pandemic, did you keep that news outside the paywall, or did people have to pay to get to it?
Yeah, the only thing we kept outside or in front of the paywall were their special advertisement sections and then their legal notice.
Okay, cool. So Matt, what do you got for us in Chesterfield?
Right. Yeah. So this is just my slide so that I don't forget any of the important, the registration wall, Frank already described, and that generated the email signups that are still on that newsletter list. They get a newsletter. Part of our process is when we extract the PDF and put stories up, we automatically send a newsletter. And we've been doing that for 20 years that we've been doing this because, it's clear that, people need that school push notification traffic into the site. And we clearly see in the statistics that it works. So, just that reminder brings people in. So these people signed up for a free, basically, newsletter, and they're still getting that. And so we're marketing to them by delivering value every week, sending headlines and teasers. But it's basically like looking at the front page. They're not getting anything beyond the page. And then they launched with this model. I really think this is clever to have just two options, real simple, not a lot of decisions to make here. And it's 1 year or monthly, and both auto renew. And he's got this introductory rate. So the first time you subscribe, you get the intro rate, which is $48 a year. That's going to auto renew at $72 a year. So, we're going to see how that does in the fall. But,
Right.
Really, to maintain the revenue he's making now, he's only got to have 2/3 of those people auto renew, and I'm sure he's going to get more. So with the price increase, and then the month to month, he's got this real low rate to get your foot in the door, 99 cents, and then it auto renews at $7.99.
So it's 1 month at 99 cents. The next month it's
right.
All right. Do you have any? We don't know the conversion for the annuals. You should know some conversion on the monthlies. You have that data for us?
I think I see right on. Oh, you know what? Yeah, we can kind of look at these slides. Well, this is not really answering your question, but it is. I just want to point it out because we talked about this. So I kind of gave it away. We can't do the contest again, but they've got about a quarter of them since the launch, just looking at the total number of transactions, about a quarter have been monthly. Okay. But that only adds up to 10% of the revenue over this period because it's more expensive. So
exactly.
I just think it's interesting. And the lesson that I take away from all this stuff, like Jim's numbers being 84% and Frank's 90s annual subscribers, that's your core audience. Those are the people that you want to tailor your website to. They're the true fans, and they make up the majority of the subscribers and the revenues. Rather than chasing everyone and treating every page view equally, you should look at things a little bit differently based on who it's coming from. And right now, Frank's got 191 active subscribers with a split of about 10 to 9% being. So again, very similar to the
content behind the paywall. Again, same or similar questions, if I may. Frank, are you putting anything special behind it? Is there just same content that you always had there?
I mean, we kind of let the news dictate what we put up there, if that makes sense. If we need to beat the local daily paper to something, and we got the time to do it, then we'll throw it up there and give them a little extra. We did do during the pandemic, a lot of graduations couldn't happen, so we put a lot of photographs and stuff up there.
Can't mess with that.
That always got people going. It was like doing a cat video.
Well, or a dog video if you're talking to Jim, except it wouldn't have much motion in it. Let's go back to email database for Frank, Matt. What do we got? And you don't have to bring up a slide on that unless you have one. How large is his email database, and how is that working for you?
Right. Oh, I think I have those numbers here. I don't actually have them right in front of me, but I seem to recall looking at them. It's in the range of the Acorn. It's, I think, around 4,000, something like that, emails. And, I want to say about 3/4 of the free account sign up in the month before it was paid. And they did a lot of great promotions. They wrote articles and published it on the website saying, this is why we're going to the paid model, letting them know it's going to happen, asking them to. And so again, they continue to market to this audience. I think it's in that range.
I want to invite anybody who's participating as an attendee to go to chat and ask any questions, make any comments. Make sure you do it to everyone if you can. Jim, you got a direct one from M. Roberts there to panel. No, that's just to the panelists, but I'm going to read it out to the group if that's okay with M. Roberts. At the start of the pandemic, our owner, Will Fleet, reached out to the community and asked for their support in subscribing to the paper. We used to give it out for free. $59 would give subscribers the premium package, which was access to e-edition, delivery, and no longer available LA Times for Sunday. For 2020, we generated over $46,000 in revenue on subscriptions alone. Our email edition cost $39 by itself. Okay, no, your e-edition, I should. So you're splitting. See, that's a different model, and I've heard that that's working for some, Matt, where the the e-edition, or what some call it the flip book edition of the paper, is a different model for subscription. Are you doing any of that in some of your markets now, or is it always everything behind the wall?
Right. Yeah, technically we can. There may be one or two, and it makes, I can understand doing it because I see the print audience is completely different from the digital, and they think if they like reading the print edition, they like seeing it laid out like a paper, they're going to just want the e-edition. The way, I kind of look at it is just, why wouldn't just give them, and why not give them everything, just charge a little bit more, two products?
These are just different options for,
Sure.
Why would you serve 49 flavors of ice cream?
Right.
I might be so bold. We have a question from Preston, which I think is appropriate. Let's repeat again, Matt, which I think everybody's worried about. Yeah. What were the uniques prior to the paywall and after, if we can ask?
Okay, yeah, I rattled them off earlier, but let's take a look because I thought it was helpful to visualize this. We'll look at, so this is a chart, the past 2 years since July 2019. Paywall launched here October. So looking at you can just kind of look at this, see COVID right here, obviously, and all of our customers saw this spike in March 2020. But he's basically settled out right around where he was averaging pre-COVID, and that's with the paywall. And some interesting stats on this. Okay, so what I did is I looked at 2019, and so we're 38,000 unique visitors. Comparing each year to that baseline year, because compare anything to 2020.
Yeah, it's an
90,000 page. They saw a significant increase in clear on the 23% increase. But in 2021, compared to 2019, it should be expected. They did see a decline in page views, but the unique visitors. So that to me says that there's maybe less random traffic coming in. They're not maybe looking at as many articles because they run out on the meter. But the dedicated audience, the people that are paying, are actually, I think that's what really counts. Working with that core audience is, random people. They may add up to the page views, but that's not really. You may get a couple more ad dollars from your ad network or something that month.
Yeah, but it could also be that anomaly of 2020. everybody's locked in,
right,
with a screen. Either the tablet or the phone or the, God forbid, or the TV. But they're just locked in on screens.
Right.
When the world opens up and you finally get your, get out, there just may be a little bit less traffic that the entire industry is going to see. Well, it will just take it as it comes and see where we go. Right, but this is not a significant drop. So let me keep that up for a second.
Okay. I'll show the Acorn next. But
yeah, because I want to talk to Frank about this. Now, Frank, I went out. And I still do it. I built 22 years of what we call revenue generation, where we did four-legged sales calls. We parachuted into markets all over the world. But just about every North American market, I went in there and helped sales reps and made calls, these four-legged sales calls with potential advertisers selling multimedia solutions. When the paywall world started, we were getting pushback from advertisers. Why would I buy anything digital from you when people, because they were pissed. This was years ago when people started putting up paywalls. Are you getting any pushback from your advertisers that if you're selling anything digital on your website? Are you hearing any complaints, Frank? Is anyone using that as an excuse not to buy an ad or sponsored content or anything on your website?
No, I think most people kind of got it with the pandemic going on that, just not only our industry, but a lot of industries' revenue was down. And so you certainly had to find other alternatives of revenue coming in. But we just point out to them that it's the people that are there actually looking for more value, if that makes some sense. The customer's more value to this ad. And so they seem to buy into that.
Okay. While we're on the topic, it has very little to do with paywalls, but it's a big issue right now. The two biggest issues in the industry today, there used to be three, Matt, when people were worried about third-party data going away. And as predicted, Google caved this, today. We released that in the 12 Noon newsletter. They're putting it off another year, right? And if no one knows what I'm talking about, Google made a decision to stop allowing cookies in the Chrome environment. Matt, you're the nerd here, but I'm saying that correctly, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. Them and Apple, they're both making.
Well, Apple already did it, right?
Yeah.
Google,
Yeah. They've made that change with iOS. Yeah.
Yeah, but Google's like 70%, right? So when Google stops the cookies, that ends the programmatic world in the sense we call that third-party data. The data you collect at your newspaper is first-party data. People said, nah, they're not really going to do it. And people were wondering why they were doing it. Was it just because it would also hurt Facebook, correct, Matt? I mean, because Facebook's retargeting is a huge amount of revenue. As I would say, that's good for us. You might be upset, oh my God, there goes my programmatic revenue. There goes my chance to sell reach extension. But it's almost like they take that pawn off the board for you, but they take Facebook's queen off the board because a lot of that money is Facebook retargeting money, and they just put a dagger into that. But now it's another year off. But I don't know why I went into that diatribe. Please excuse me, Matt. It's your show today. But the two things that all we hear about is reader revenue. That's what we're addressing today. Yep. But also sponsored content, right? Branded content. Frank, are you doing that on your website? Do you sell content you create for your advertisers or in your newspaper? Okay, so there's church and state, right? There's the newsroom, and then there's advertising. All right, Matt, is that it for the Observer so far and the data you want to show as we're going through this? Let's go over to the Acorn then.
On their stats, for sure.
And let's keep in mind that both markets technically are suburban markets, wouldn't you say? Jim, you're suburban LA, right?
Correct.
And Frank's suburban Richmond, correct, Frank? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Before we get into that, so Burrow was just asking about impact on digital ad revenue. Jim commented no impact on digital ads. So you're talking about the ads that you sell directly to local advertisers have maintained.
Right. And I mean, to be honest, not much.
Right. So, that's what you're saying in the beginning.
Yeah.
So you're not doing things like at EMP, we sell a lot. We sell a lot of digital solutions that leverage our website. You're not making that a focus of your sales. You're just doing banner ads and print ads as you send your sales force out. Jim?
Oh, correct. Yeah. I mean, still primarily, print rules our world, the print ads. But we're doing more with social media campaigns, selling some of that kind of stuff as well.
Good for you.
That's a separate thing. Yeah.
That's good for you. All right. So go ahead, Matt. You were going to give us a little more data.
Let's take a look at this. So here's your visual on the Acorn, just the Thousand Oaks Acorn, but the trends are very similar at the other. And we got the paywall launch right here this month, which actually was kind of a peak month. And they were just, kind of hovering right around this for years. They had this stuff here, but that's kind of steady. And then it kind of leveled out here, peaks and troughs, it seems like. And then there was COVID. But today we're definitely very solid where we were pre-launch, paywall. And it's kind of hard to see with all the ups and downs. So I just like to break it down like I did for Frank here. 2017, that's our baseline year, a full year before the paywall. The average monthly page view, about 100,000. 2018, it went up 38%. The first year of the paywall. Unique visitors went up 42%. 2019, so they launched it in September of really third quarter of 2018. Full year of the paywall, 2019. Again, in pre-launch. 2020, again, an anomaly. Last year on the chart. And then 2021, where we're at today, they're doing great things there. And, it's not just, this isn't really a controlled study. They're doing a lot of different things to drive and increase traffic, but this is the end result.
All right, Jeff Payton, who actually was an early bird. Jeff, you can ask any question you want because you sat with us for 30 minutes watching us test the audio and all that. Jeff asked from Laconia, is the rise in uniques attributed to folks circumventing the metered wall, clearing cache, and et cetera? Matt, let's talk about that. People who figure out, a metered wall does allow a human being to constantly go up to their browser, right? Clear the cache, means remove the cookie.
Right. Well, most metered paywalls, but ours does not allow that. It's not susceptible to the incognito mode because rather than putting a cookie on there when they view a story and then counting their cookie, we're requiring them to authenticate that they haven't viewed 3 stories. So if they clear their cache, then they're just going to still have that meter time. The way that we've set it up, it's not the traditional way of.
I always make it a point at EMP when we host anything to make sure we speak normally, not too nerdy. So
Sure.
Let's repeat that again to someone who just, because there's a lot of managers that what that means is some people have figured out to go up there and clear their history of a browser.
Right.
And some paywalls let you jump over them for a while because it's
Right.
counting the number of times you've landed there.
Right.
Your system has found a way not to let that happen. That's what
Exactly. Yeah. We're not using the cookie method. We have an alternative method. So when you clear the cookies, normally that would just make you look like a brand new, they don't have any information on you. But with ours, that we require that they authenticate that they have not viewed. And so it's basically going to shut you out right away. It's going to treat you as if the metered paywalls, if you try to use. So incognito is basically just a way, we're not allowing, be a way to clear the.
A good question for Preston again. How do you do that authentication? How clunky is it? Is it going to make a reader go, I'm out of here, too much work? I mean, what's the experience like when I authenticate?
Well, so the user experience, you're saying when they go into incognito.
No, he says, how do they perform that authentication? You said they have to authenticate.
That's our kind of proprietary
Okay.
thing. So yeah, that's something that we've developed for our paywall.
But the user experience is not affected by that authentication.
That's right.
Once they register, they register.
The
right?
only effect on it is if they're trying to hit the meter every time. They're going to be at the end of the meter.
Now, Jim, once again, everybody has to register to see. Both of you guys, Jim and Frank, require registration, right? And then there's the paywall behind. After that, that is it, right? It's register to see the content was the first mode. Then you slipped into the paid mode after. Kay Wallace, I may have missed this answer. The meter paywall say they can view 3 stories before paying. Do they get to see 3 stories per week or 3 stories no matter what? That's a good question. You can set the paywalls different ways, right? Monthly, weekly, whatever, Matt, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, you can right. You can reset that meter. And it's just a variable on our end, which is number of days. So number of days that pass for the meter to refresh stories.
What's the average? What's the normal? Is it a monthly, 3 a month?
Yeah, they're doing pretty much the typical model, which is monthly. It auto populates and 3 a month, right? So like the 1 article. I like the idea of them being able to open that newsletter and view 1 story, but then if they try to view that second one, which is very common behavior, our stats show, it's like an average 2 actions per visit. So people unobstructed by the paywall, if they're paying, they will, typically come in and view 2 articles at a time. So this would shut that down.
All right, here's Preston's question. I'm going to read it the way he wrote it. So there are now no anonymous users?
Right. So from the, in terms of looking at the actual articles, right. They're hitting the paywall. They're users, but they can only view the team.
All right, we got about 8 minutes to go before we're going to wrap this thing up. Again, we're watching the chat room in any way, shape, form, or size. Any questions? There's no such thing as too simple of a question on something like this. We've got people of all different levels of digital knowledge, but what we're discussing now is a very big issue. Can you make extra dollars as a free publication, an alternative weekly or a suburban weekly that is for decades constantly given away free? That's your model, a free audience, a free model. Can you then say, because we're online with more in-depth content, and we're giving you the flip book version plus the digital version, can we charge for that content? And that's what this is all about. Jim, any advice you want to give those that are nervous about this and scared they're going to start losing readers and piss people off? Because you said you were nervous and then you did it. Are you happy about the decision, especially with this graph is amazing? You must be happy, sir.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm thrilled. I think you just have to, it's like you have to trust your gut. And unfortunately, I had listened to maybe the fears of my editorial staff a little longer than I should have before launching this, to be honest with you. It's like anything new, any change. Yeah, there's going to be hiccups and you're going to have some issues and you just, fix them as you go. But, we're pretty excited about the revenue we've had. We're on track this year to make more than we made last year. And we're going to do some stuff to really make sure that happens. I think, it's the future. I don't know how long it's going to take to really get there, but at least we've got our feet in the water and we're on the way.
How about you, Frank? Was there anything, you did it much more recently, did it in the middle of the pandemic, and it worked for you as well. Your numbers are, we're still you're just at the beginning of your journey, but what advice would you give a publisher who's nervous or has an editor saying, no, we're free, we'll always be free and free at last, excuse the pun.
You're going to get some pushback from a few people. I mean, that's a kind of a given. Anybody has some change. But, digital is going to be more and more a bigger part of our daily lives. So, you can keep on fighting it or you can join it and get in. But Matt was very helpful in kind of holding our hand and walking us through the process. It made it a whole lot smoother.
I appreciate that, Frank, but I got to hand it to Jim, too, really, because he was one of the first.
I already cashed the check.
I know you guys talk to each other, and that's something that we really try to encourage at our hometown. We're like a family of publishers. When you join our hometown, you join a neighborhood of publishers. We're talking all the time. We send out newsletters every week with case studies showing what other publishers are doing so they can all learn from it. It's kind of like presses from your website. I know that their editors talked about the strategy and impacted what we.
Joe G, good question. Matt, do you provide apps for your customers as well?
Yeah.
And is there ever a separate pricing model for the app versus the browser-based version?
That's interesting. Yeah, I can almost see separating that to two different paywalls by the app. But the way our system works is they're automatically integrated. So yes, we do iOS and Android apps, and they synced up with the website. So you publish an article on the website, it automatically appears on the app, basically a native form of the website on the phone. And the paywall is integrated, so they can buy a subscription on either platform. We try to push them to buy it on the website. If you buy it through the app, Apple takes. If you can buy it through the website and then just sign in, pretty much one paywall.
I actually think that's a very interesting conundrum because the app is a completely separate, different type of audience and a different type of delivery. Burl is asking the billion-dollar question. My buddy Burl, I've known for years up in Lansing, Michigan. The paper is an alternative weekly. He is doing what I call the guilt model of revenue, where basically you simply say, hey, this newsroom costs money. We're your voice in the community. Nothing wrong with that. Please contribute and help us out. And Burl said, look, I'm making the same dollars doing that the way you're doing this. Can I do both, or can I turn those people into subscribers? I don't know if we have an answer for him on that yet, do we, Matt? I mean, why don't you just give me your gut on that?
I guess I'm not quite following what
he's using the expression, I just put out our hand.
Yeah, right. And
he might be exceeding revenue. But I think, Burl, I know you and how you chat. He's saying he's doing the please contribute and support our newsroom model.
Oh, okay, right. Donations.
It's not a tax deduction, but you make it sound like one.
Right.
Give. Okay, so go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, definitely on the Acorn, we've had the donation for a while. I think so. You can donate. It definitely doesn't hurt to put it out there, but that's going to be a different level of a creek.
No, put that back up. I love that. Don't find a cow to tip.
The Acorn.
Tip a squirrel. Yeah.
Yes.
That is creative. That's fun.
The squirrel mascot is big with the Acorn, and we had a squirrel coupon discount that did very well. Play up that really well. Yeah, I think definitely makes sense to offer that. Burl, again, he said that people want to contribute to the paper. How else can they help sustain the business of a local newspaper? They can buy classified ads. They could buy other types of ads. Right. But, donations and subscriptions are, I think, a much better, well, not better, but you want to have that. So I think to do both, Burl.
Mark's asking a really cool question.
Yes.
And I've heard this before. Why not leave the e-reader, or at least the current e-reader version, out? So you can say to the advertiser, my digital ad, your ad in the paper is instantly digitized and available. Do you have a cool system like I do where my flipbook version automatically finds hyperlinks in the copy, Matt, and turns them into links for email and websites and stuff?
Yes, we do that. Yeah. So it's an interactive.
Right. So what's wrong with that concept? And then as soon as that, it would only leave one out at a time, if you follow my logic, the current one, and then you put that behind the paywall as part of an archival system. But go ahead. I'm sorry. You're about to show us something, Matt. We only have 2 minutes left. Go ahead.
Browsing here. Yeah. Well, Mark, I think the problem with that is leakier than you probably want, because once they get into the e-edition, they can read the whole thing. So it's not really controlling. It's not a meter anymore. But I think what I would suggest that to get the print advertisers on digital is to use Our Hometown's PDF extraction. We will just extract those ads and run them on the right column. So they're separate from the e-edition. The e-edition can still be behind the paywall, but we'll put the ads on the homepage like this, and we can make them click through to the website. Like part of our extraction process is to identify any phone numbers and emails or URLs, and then automatically. So,
and then when you do that, I've seen these models before. My advice, if I don't mind, can I get some advice, Matt, if that's okay?
Please.
And you work with your design team to make sure you don't shove an entire menu from a Chinese restaurant in a 1x1. You know what I mean?
Right.
You work with them so that the flow of the ad looks good in the conversion, and everybody wins from that. We're going to wrap it up here now. We only got 1 minute left. 60 minutes is all you paid for, Matt. The meter, I'm kidding. The meter's running. This has been an amazing, eye-opening dialogue. Matt, if people want more information, do you have a place they can go to learn more about this? Can they get copies of your slides? Go ahead.
Absolutely. I'll just drop our homepage there, ourhometown.com. And I definitely want to open it up to anyone that's interested in. Really, the best way to learn about our platform is just to get a free prototype. We do rapid prototyping. You just send us your PDF exactly the way Jim and Frank do every week, and we will extract the articles into HTML and give you a fully functional website that we could launch in a matter of days, sites in 4 days, that people that really needed a solution. So go to the contact us link there and just send us a PDF through WeTransfer, and we'll turn it into a prototype, and then we'll give you a demo and explain.
The other advantage that Matt's system has, not that I'm, prefer one over the other, is that you use a WordPress platform. So there's tons and tons and tons of plugins being developed almost hourly in your environment. So if you don't have the solution someone needs, there's always a way to find one. I mean,
exactly.
And 19 different colors and stripes. That's why I like the WordPress environment. It's also very safe, right? You're on some of the. Go ahead.
It's an open source CMS. So yeah, it's safe. It can be, if you're doing it yourself, it can be a little bit unstable because there's plugin updates being released all the time. Different developers, thousands of people develop plugins for WordPress, and they might release updates at different times. It could break other plugins. So that's why we have this dedicated engineering team managing those updates. Exactly. You get the benefit of the open source without, the issues that sometimes come from it.
If you're going to do WordPress on your own, you're going to have a full-time person handling it. I always say that. There's nothing wrong with doing it on your own, but you're paying someone to do it. Right. Jim, if someone wants to get a hold of you, what is your email address, sir?
It is JR, just like my initials, at the Acorn online, or theacorn.com.
Theacorn.com. JR, theacorn.com. Mr. McCracken, I misspelled your name a few times.
That's okay.
Is it misspelled now on the screen? Isn't there another C in there? No, there isn't. No, wait.
Yeah, there's just another C in there. That's okay.
All right, go ahead. What is your?
Still sounds the same.
What is your email address?
It's publisher@localnewsllc.com.
Publisher@localnewsllc.com. Matt, Frank, Jim, thanks so much for your valuable time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending this webinar. We've got some coming every 2 weeks. I think we've got this sold out right until the fall, as you'll learn different solutions from what we like to call our partners at Editor and Publisher. And thank you again, Matt, for your support of our magazine.
Thank you, Mike. You're doing wonderful things. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for the mic.
Appreciate the time, Jim and Frank.
Take care, Matt.
See you later.